is Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows. And tonight, Pete, we're doing more.
Yes.
More. You love the end. More.
I thought you were going to add something before you said more. I got all thrown off.
I'm Brad.
We didn't rehearse this. What's my line?
Oh, obviously.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
All right.
There
So
it
we're
is.
doing more tonight.
Yes, this whole month, in fact.
Yes, we did preview it a little bit last week, but this, Gifford, this was your brainchild. So
Yeah.
before we start, why don't you tell the audience what's happening tonight and then coming up?
Sure. So for the month of July, last year in July, we did all the vacation movies because you go on vacation in July. This year, we are doing a staycation, if you will. So all of our subjects this month will have something to do with our home state of Minnesota. So, for example, this evening,
Minnesota, yeah.
We are just going to do a general overview of things that we think are unique to our home state of Minnesota.
Or just important to us.
Yeah, important to us. Basically, this is an Explore Minnesota ad that we're doing tonight.
Yeah.
You know, all the great things about Minnesota.
I just wonder what we're going to do next July, because now we've already used up vacation and staycation. What's there left?
I don't know. We'll come up with something else next year. We got a year to think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm already thinking right now, guys. I got nothing.
All right.
All right. So tonight we're gonna talk about, like he said, things that are unique to us. But the next 3 weeks we're gonna get back kind of more into our traditional lane. Mm-hmm. So what's next week, Giff? Because you're pretty excited about this.
Very excited about next week. So first off, we are gonna bring in, I hope, 3 guests to come on and play a game of initials that I put together. It's a modified game of initials so that I don't get sued by Corey Cove in the morning Power Trip morning show. And
you wouldn't have, guarantee you wouldn't have until you call them out by name right there. Now everyone knows.
You didn't even need to do it.
Well, we will be.
We are inspired by him, and would tell people, if you like the game that you made, there's a similar one, and they can go out and buy it.
Yeah, or
I own it and I love it. It's a really fun game. If you like trivia, it's a great game. Good travel game.
Yeah, it's great in the car
awesome.
for sure.
Yes.
Or you can go back and listen to all 417 initials games on the podcast for it. So I will be doing that with Pete and Brad and 3 other gentlemen, and that is going to be all concentrated on movies that were filmed in, about, or mention Minnesota in some way. So I'm really looking forward to that. I put this together a few weeks ago, and it's been burning a hole in my pocket, and I can't wait to play it and see if you guys can figure out the puzzle.
That's a brilliant idea.
And we're doing games all month. I don't know the order that we're going to be in for sure, but I made a Minnesota music game. Mm-hmm. And Pete, you're going to do it, right? He's going to make a TV game.
That's correct. It's going to be something to do with.
And Pete is really smart and good at trivia, so he's going to come up with something great, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right. Pete definitely drew the short straw because the TV.
No.
Arena.
There's plenty out there. It's just a matter of determining the type of game and trivia questions. There's plenty of stuff.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome, right. Pete. I have full faith in you that you will put together something wonderful.
So we don't know yet which order those 2 are going to be coming at you. But those will be the last 2 of the month. But for sure, next week, you're going to get the movie one.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be fun. And we're going to try to have guests on for all 3 to play the games. And then maybe that'll become part of our repertoire in the future.
Possibly.
To spice up this show a little bit and add some new life to what we already do so well.
Yes.
What do we do well?
I don't know.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Hey, Craig told us on the YouTube one twice that we do a great job here. So
we do a great job.
That's all that matters.
And you know what? Yesterday, my mom told me I was pretty. So it's awesome.
You are in your own special way.
Yes.
And we were featured. And speaking of Minnesota,
Oh yeah,
we were
Oh, yeah.
featured in a magazine called Voyage Minnesota, which we have posted to all of our social media accounts. We'll do it again when these start to come out in July. We'll post that again.
hmm
But so we don't know exactly why we got that publicity, but we sure appreciate it, and it was fun to be a part of that. And
It's
hopefully
because
that
we're
helps
good
us.
at what we do.
Well, that's true. We earned it.
and
That's right.
we're from Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
So that'll fit right in with them. It's already out there, but that fits in with our theme too.
yes, it does.
All right, so we
Voyage
did
Minnesota.
we asked our classmates on our online to if they had any ideas of things to discuss for Minnesota. What are some topics we should get into? What are some unique things? And one of our most heralded guests, Johnny Mulkern, who was on the 1987 episode, threw out the idea of the state fair. And if there's
Yes.
one thing that is important to Minnesotans, that's one of them right there. That's a big one.
The Great Minnesota Get Together is what they
2
call
years ago when COVID hit,
right.
it was canceled, and that could have been the end of the world for some people around
Yeah.
here, the way they reacted to that.
And
So-
that's a good transition from last week's episode, which was Def Leppard, because Def Leppard performs at the state fair every now and again.
Well, that's one of the few memories that I have written down is that
There you go.
the first time I ever saw Def Leppard, I saw them also with Styx. One of I never thought I'd see Styx in concert in my life, and it was amazing. And also Tesla, which I didn't care as much about, but I saw all three of those perform at the state fair in 2015. It was the first time I ever saw Def Leppard, and even though it's way past their heyday, it was awesome. And it was the first time I'd ever been to a show at the state fair too. So the grandstand holds what, like 20,000, 30?
I guess
Even
I'm
almost
not
30?
sure.
A lot of people.
Mhm.
And they have big events there every night and big concerts there. And I had never actually attended one. And so
17,000 actually. I just
oh,
looked
okay.
it up.
So 20 was close.
Yep.
And it was amazing. It was a great concert. It was a great setting. And so that's probably my best state fair memory that I've ever had. I am not like many Minnesotans. I am not a huge fan of the state fair. I really could take it or leave it. If we
my
go, we
God.
go. But it's not.
I'm
It's
going to edit that out.
it's really hot and it's really big crowds, and
It's
all you
crowded,
do is get
yep.
stuck in a crowd, and then you just spend money after money and eat crap, which that's fun to a point too.
Oh,
And
it's the best.
so if I go, it's fine, but we don't seek it out every year like a lot of people do.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
it's
been a
one of my-
while for us. But,
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to cut in. Did I cut you
No,
off?
go ahead. That was
there,
one of my
Mr.
memories.
Gifford?
I have a few others, but go ahead.
No, go ahead, Pete.
Well, I do enjoy going to the state fair. You go into the day knowing what you're expecting because we've been there enough times, and so we come prepared. And the worst experience, however, was when both our kids were younger and we had like a double stroller. And when the day that we went, they had broken all-time attendance record. So you're trying to push that thing all around the place and with all the people, and it was about 115 degrees that day.
That's
everything
where
you're
I'd like
saying right
to
there.
chime in, because if I go with just me and Kim, we can have a
Yes.
fun day. We can do fun stuff. But our kids just recently got older, and all our friends had gone every year with their kids, no matter what. And I'm like, are you nuts? I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
what's not fun. Like, you take little kids there who couldn't care less, and you're spending even more money. But yeah, now I would much rather go now if it's just the two of us. That you can make a fun day out of that.
That it is true.
So,
but
great
like you
point,
said,
Pete.
it is expensive. But what are your favorite foods at the state fair? You mentioned the foods.
Oh, well,
we
I
cannot-
wrote down two.
Okay.
My favorite place to go right away is the roasted corn booth, where you get the big corn on the cob.
The corn on the cob is fantastic.
Can't miss that. And then right over outside of the grandstand, they always have a caramel apple and ice cream. It's a caramel apple in a dish with ice cream, and I love getting that every year. And there's a lot of other I'll eat a corn dog. Corn dogs are always great. But those
Pronto
are
Pup?
those are the two things that I think about right away that I personally love. How about you?
I think there's a difference between a pronto pup and a corn dog. Is there not?
Yeah, it's the
It is a
coating.
little
One's
different.
made out of corn and one's made out of like wheat or whatever. It's
The breading is
it's
different,
something
is
like
what we're
that.
getting
The
at.
breading
Yes,
is different.
right.
Right. Basically, it's the same thing.
But they taste the same to me.
Right. I do think there's a difference, actually. The Pronto pups, to me, it tastes a little bit better. I think that they have a little bit more of a roasted taste to it. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but that's the way that I remember the difference being in terms of taste.
Is that your favorite food there?
It's one of them. I would say the classic for me is the cheese curds. I also, one of the more recent foods, when I say recent, I think it came out within the last 20 to 25 years, the macaroni and cheese on a stick. First time I had it, I was just like, oh God, that's fantastic.
We should
I was
clarify
wondering like
too,
how they can do that, but what's
for
that?
people that maybe don't go to the state fair, everything is on a stick.
Right.
So you can get anything on a stick
A
there.
pork chop on a stick, for crying out loud. It's
Oh, that's a good one too. And,
Yep.
and don't forget about Sweet Martha's cookies.
yeah.
You got to have that. There are no better cookies in the world than Sweet Martha's cookies. And
Again, I disagree.
On the contrarian, Brad.
Who
They're
invited Brad? Oh my
They're
God.
good, but
What
I
a
mean, I've had
Debbie
plenty of
Downer.
chocolate chip cookies that are just as good that you don't stand in line for an hour to get. It's
Yeah.
like it's because they're at the fair that they're seen as this amazing thing. They're a good chocolate chip cookie.
So I got a buddy who runs a pickle stand.
What else do you want me to rip on?
Oh, well, how about pickles? So I got a
pickles.
buddy or a guy I know that runs a pickle stand at the state fair, and he makes his entire year in that 12 days at the state fair.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think for a lot of people, that's probably the goal there, huh?
Yep.
Sweet Martha makes like $2 million.
Yeah.
Just being at that every year. So that's
Right.
what I've heard. But Brad's like, I hate pickles.
Although my wife and daughter love pickles, so they would like the pickles that you were talking about.
Sure. Well, I've been to the state fair as an exhibitor, as a worker, and as just a fan, I guess, going to the state fair. So
You worked there?
Yes. So I'll start with that. So when I worked for Home Depot, they have a booth at the fair where you can bring your child and make something. So like, for example, yes, you can make something out of a child. Yeah. It was called Silence of the Lambs. No. So you have a kit, like you could make a little toolbox real quick or a birdhouse or whatever, and they're all these pre-made kits, and you stand there with a bunch of other employees and people bring their kids in, and you help the kids put together whatever they one of three options. So you stand there all day and get your fingers hit by hammers of a 3 or 4-year-old operating a hammer while you hold the nail while they put it in. So that was outstanding. When I was in 4-H growing up, I went 3 years in a row. 2 years I took a cow to show at the state fair, and that was over Labor Day weekend. So when I was 12, imagine letting your kid go to the state fair when they're 12 years old, just with another group of kids that are around that age, and just letting them loose on the state fair for 4 days. It was awesome. We stayed in the 4-H dorms the first 2 years. The third year, when I was there for cattle judging, I was staying at Bailey Hall on the St. Paul campus, so I'd have to leave the fair and walk to Bailey Hall, a lot of times by myself, which was a little weird because I was only like 14 years old at the time. But one of the memories I have of that was I learned the phrase "fucking A" in one of the arcades, and I remember it distinctly, and I thought, that's a good saying. I'm going to stick with that.
That is.
And it's still in my repertoire to this day. As far as food goes,
can we go back to you showing cows for a second?
Yeah.
Because one of my two specific memories that I wrote down is it was the day before our senior year started, I'm pretty sure. My parents and I went up to the state fair, and I remember going to see you and your Jersey cow.
That would have been
hanging out.
Which year did you say?
I thought it was our senior year.
That would have been like 7th or 8th grade.
No. I was much older.
No,
I
I
was
wasn't.
much older.
No, I can tell you, I was not there with that Jersey cow. By the
Different
time we
guy.
were seniors, we had
All right,
already
well-
butchered her and ate her.
My memory has forsaken me for once. Anyway, I remember going into the cow building, which is not something as you did very much, just to see you, and we
Yep.
said hi and saw you and your brown cow, and so
Yep.
that's one of my memories is seeing
Yeah.
you at the.
I took that same cow to the fair 2 years in a row. She was outstanding. But my meal that I loved eating was I would go get about a foot long hot dog. They're little carts on a corner, and you'd load that up with onions, ketchup, and mustard. Then you would walk to the French fry stand and get a bucket
the
of French
French fries are
fries.
good, too.
Yeah, love those too.
And then you would go
Brad,
to the
We've got something that Brad likes, everybody.
Oh,
right.
well, and while he brought it up, the footlongs are good too. And actually, there was a few years ago, I have a picture of Kim holding the stick. I don't know what it was called, a mega something. It was basically 4 hot dogs all in one on a stick, breaded, and I ate that sucker right down.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
hot dogs and French fries are great, but see, you can get those not at the fair, but of course they're fun to get while you're there.
Right. But then what you would do is then you would go to the milk stand where they just bring in a bulk truck of milk.
That's another
and you
one,
could
the
do
malts.
all the milk you could
Malts.
drink for 25 cents. And that would be my
I
meal.
can't drink
Hot dog,
milk.
French fries, and milk.
Oh,
And I remember that since you're there and you're staying on the fairgrounds, all you're eating is fair food. I remember I started to crave vegetables because you're eating so much fried food. So we found like a hoagie stand.
Well, that's when you go to the roasted corn.
Well, right, but I could go to the hoagie stand and get a sandwich that had lettuce and tomatoes on it and something that wasn't deep fried. I went there one time. I remember a concert I went to was we went to Winona Judd. That was not a good concert, but Sawyer Brown opened for her, and that was outstanding. So that was one of the concerts I remember going to.
I saw Brad Paisley
the milk
there one.
Oh, the milk building though, I got to add that to my list of things I have to get is a malt,
Mm-hmm.
Malt, absolutely, yes.
and I will wait in line.
See,
there's plenty of
kind
stuff I like.
Do you get strawberry, vanilla, chocolate?
Traditionally chocolate, but I feel like
Yeah.
I got a strawberry one I know recently, so I switched it up even.
Mhm.
And vanilla,
Well-
I mean they're all good. Doesn't matter.
Well, and one thing as a proud Minnesotan I would like to point out is that the Texas State Fair is technically the biggest state fair in the country. It averages 2.25 million people a year, but that one runs for 24 days. The Minnesota State Fair averages 2 million people in 12 days. So we run half the time.
I'm glad you brought those stats because I was going to say it is and they're also a much bigger state.
Correct.
It's a lot more people in Texas.
But attendance per day, Minnesota kicks the crap out of Texas as far as the state fair goes.
And it is something people love. The only other memory I have of the state fair is I always used to love going to the U of M building, especially because it's usually hot, and you get to go in they had the little air-conditioned theater room, and you could watch highlights of the teams from the previous year. So it'd be like a 20-minute football highlight video, 20-minute basketball highlight video, and you would never miss those either. Plus, you got to get out of the heat.
Yeah, which is a huge thing at the state fair. Excellent.
Right.
Well,
good.
Pete, you got anything else in the state fair?
No, I was just starting to say that the only concert that I remember going to is that my wife and I went to a Brad Paisley concert, I would say 20 years ago. Not long after we got married, I think.
Wow.
It might have been 15, somewhere between 15 and 20. And it was fun. You know, I'm not a huge Brad Paisley guy, but I know some of his songs, and we had a great time that night. I think we went with somebody else too, but I don't remember who. But not much of a story there. We had fun. Good. That's it. That's all I'm going to go with. I don't remember who. I don't remember how long ago. But Brad Paisley was there.
Excellent.
All right. So state fair is huge. Thank you for giving us that topic, Johnny.
Attaboy, Johnny.
We're going to go through a round robin now and just keep throwing out things that we came up with that we thought were either unique or important. And so I talked about the heat at the state fair, and I wanted to talk about everybody talks about the weather in Minnesota. Oh, it's so cold and it's cold year round. Well, that's not even true. But I want to bring up the geography and the climate, because one of the wonderful things about our state is that we have all 4 seasons. And the joke is you got winter and you got construction season.
Yeah, that's about right.
But you know what? We have all 4. We have spring, when everything gets green. We have summer, which can get ungodly hot. Like today, it's 96
humid
degrees.
today.
It's not the heat, it's the humidity.
Yeah, and it's
like
not a dry
sauna
heat here.
No.
The fall is my favorite season, and it is a brilliant time of year. And then, whether you like the winter or not, when you get the snow and it's newly fallen, it's the prettiest white, and it is a wonderful thing to be able to see. And you don't get that in a lot of other places. And we don't just get snow, we get all the seasons. But on top of that, we have how many lakes?
I don't know the exact number, but we are the land of 10,000 lakes.
Yes, it's more like 20,000, right? It's actually the number. We have the Mississippi River, and we have many cool rivers and like cruises you can take, and it's the headwaters of the Mississippi River, right next to Gifford's house.
Yes, I have quite a few notes on Itasca State Park.
And we have hills, mountains, and plains. We have woods. We have everything. So depending on where you're at in the state and time of year, you get to experience basically everything. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many people do love this state, and even though they complain about the weather, they don't leave. So,
and by the way, we grew up in the one part of the state where there's none of that.
Well, we have plains, Pete. We have plains.
Just plains. That's it.
And there are lakes too. You have lakes. Lakes, no matter where.
Not according to my wife, but yes, there are lakes there.
So, good point. We grew up in what is called by many the armpit of Minnesota. It is one of the windiest places in the entire state. Even though you wouldn't think you're high up in the elevation, it is one of the highest
in the country.
In the whole state. So it's very windy. We are surrounded now by about 1 million windmills.
Yep.
So that's
cancer.
Wind generators.
That's the part that we grew up in. But still, wonderful state, wonderful seasons and weather. So if you guys have anything you want to add about the weather, or Pete, you had something it sounded like, here's your chance.
You mentioned the winters, and as a native Minnesotan, you just learn to embrace it, and you figure out how to enjoy it. Our favorite activity of anything, even more, I enjoy golf, and I love golfing with you guys and other friends, but the number one activity that I enjoy, especially my wife and I enjoy going skiing every winter. And there is plenty of that here in Minnesota. We don't have like huge mountains like Aspen, but we're not at that level of skiing anyway. But there's plenty of ski hills, and now our kids are getting into it. And it's our favorite thing to do easily during the whole year. So always, we don't go that often, maybe a couple of times a year. You don't get that many opportunities, but when we do go, it's always like the best day of the year. We got Wild Mountain. There's Afton Alps too, which we didn't enjoy quite as much, but
no, I'm not a big
Wild
fan
Mountain.
of Afton, but Welch Village is wonderful.
Welch Village. You also have right across the border in Wisconsin, you've got Trollhaugen, which is another fun one.
We're not talking about Wisconsin here.
I know, but it's like you can go there in a day. But that's what I wanted to add on to what.
That's another good one, Pete. I hadn't skied in like 25 years, and last winter, my daughter and I got into skiing. Her for the first time, and then me again, and it is such a wonderful activity. And you can get to a ski hill within less than an hour, pretty much anywhere. Mm-hmm. And some are bigger than others, but you can get pretty good skiing in no matter what, and that's a nice thing to be able to have, even though we're not known for our mountains.
No,
well, we've got Buck Hill, which is where Lindsey Vaughn got her start. So don't forget that.
That's right. You can come to Bemidji and go to Buena Vista and go skiing as well, just north of town.
Would you like to talk about Bemidji and the Lake Itasca GIF?
Yes, I would love to. So Lake Itasca State Park, established in 1891, is the first Minnesota state park, and it's the second oldest state park in the United States to Niagara Falls. I don't know if you guys knew that. Yeah. So it is Lake Itasca is the is where the Mississippi begins as it runs out of Lake Itasca. It flows north to Bemidji before turning south.
That is true.
And that park is visited by 500,000 people a year. It's got everything you'd expect in a state park. It's got excellent camping, fishing, biking, hiking. There's old cabins there that are still open for operation, like Douglas Lodge was built in 1905. And these are log cabins that were built way back when and are still open. And you can book those for lodging. There's a ton of other cabins on the park, but you can also pitch a tent and camp out there as well. Yes, Pete. But it's just a great park, and we like going down there. It's only about a 45-minute drive from Bemidji, and every time we go, we always find something new, and it's just a really great place to go.
And you've taken me there.
On
it was a really nice time.
Yeah.
But my biggest memory is going there the first time with my family and my mom making me walk across the rocks, and I didn't want to.
Did you fall in?
I fell in.
They're so slippery. They're so slippery to walk across those rocks.
But I went back and exercised those demons with you. We made it. So.
Mm-hmm. And Brad's like, oh, I hate the Mississippi.
Old Miss. It's
a wonderful river.
A couple of days later, Brad wound up in New Orleans.
Oh, my God.
But you did touch on another thing that I had written down more generally. I had just many great state parks in Minnesota. Itasca is one of the more well-known ones. Just all over the state, camping is our summertime activity that we do as a family. A lot of times it's fun. Sometimes if it gets really, really hot and sticky, like a day like today, then people can be at each other's throats. But it's all part of being a family, right? So. In fact, we're going this weekend, but I won't talk about it because it's not in Minnesota. We are going to out across the border. So, but it's we just bought a tent over COVID. It's only a couple $100. We got a huge tent that's 18 by 10, and it's got 3 rooms in it, and it sets up in 10 minutes or less, and it's awesome. We love it.
Sounds like the family truckster of tents.
It is. It's very easy and portable, and it's huge.
You think you hate it now?
You sleep in it.
Oh my
God! Wow.
So there you go. That's check that off my list. I had state parks and lakes.
Well, so since we're talking about a location there, should we just continue talking about some other of the sites that we think are unique or important in Minnesota?
Absolutely.
Sure, let's do it.
I got one I want to throw out because it fits into this right here is if you go to Bemidji, you can see the statues of Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. And Paul Bunyan is famous mythological hero, and he's known for Minnesota, and there's a huge statue of each there. And if you go, you got to get your picture taken. It's just one of those places you got to go.
Well, and according to the
featured
Kodak
at the end
company,
of Vacation.
Yep, it's in a postcard.
According to the Kodak company, it's the second most photographed statues in the U.S. to Mount Rushmore.
My God, you are just ready with the stats every time.
What about the Statue of Liberty?
This is even more than that, evidently. I don't know. I'm going with Kodak company here.
That cannot be right.
But anyway, this statue was featured in the beginning of the Vacation movie on a postcard. It's in a map of Bolt. Do you remember the animated film Bolt?
Oh, I do. The dog.
It's in there. Dog. It was also in the Fargo movie and in the first season of the TV show for Fargo. It's listed in the National Registry of Historic Places since 1988. And it's the first statue of Paul Bunyan that was built, and that was in 1937 as part of our winter carnival here in Bemidji.
Boy, you are coming hot on that one.
Well, I told you I have like a few things written down, and Lake Itasca and Paul Bunyan and Babe happen to be 2 of them.
If you go but what's interesting though, many states claim Paul Bunyan. They claim him in Wisconsin, of course.
Well, and in Canada,
Paul Bunyan's axe, which we have right now. In Maine,
we do.
And they have
a statue in Bangor, Maine, of Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, we were.
In
It was
Hunahao?
weird. We went to a souvenir shop there, and they had like all this Paul Bunyan stuff. And we're like, wait a minute, this is ours. And
Well, he is
so,
a folk hero through. I mean, he's a
Right.
giant, so he
yeah,
traveled the country I mean, he can go from one place to another.
I suppose he could.
But
Well-
Minnesota is, this is the best place for him.
Well, and
Of
one of the things in folklore is that I believe that the Great Lakes were formed in his footsteps.
Oh yeah,
So I mean,
Yeah.
he's all up and down the Great Lakes region, up in Canada and across Michigan.
I guess he would get
Yeah.
to Maine pretty quickly if that's his
Yes.
footstep.
Yes. So we
All right.
here in Bemidji, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a communications company named after Paul Bunyan. There's a marathon here in Bemidji named after Paul Bunyan. There's a bike trail that goes all the way up to I Falls, I believe, is called the Paul Bunyan Trail. I mean, there's Paul Bunyan stuff all over the place up here. So,
Okay. Speaking of, you brought up the Great Lakes as far as sites in Minnesota. Our favorite, everybody's favorite 4-day weekend trip. If you have 4 days or maybe a little longer, you got to get up to the North Shore. And
Yeah.
so
just Duluth in
drive up
general.
Well,
Yep.
Duluth is only the starting point
that's
I know.
of the North Shore.
But it's a
So
cool city. You gotta.
it is a very cool city. And then when you get to Duluth, maybe stay a night or two there, and then just keep going all the way up to the Canada border, up to Grand Marais, which is the furthest city up there. I don't even know if it's much of a city, but it's like a pretty small town, but it's way up there and tucked away in the corner.
Courtney calls it the
friends-
end of the earth.
One of my
beautiful
friends, my
drive.
freshman year of college was from Grand Marais.
Okay.
We actually drove all the way up to Thunder Bay, which is in Canada. 1/4 of July. We were camping up there anyway, and we did that drive, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, the
So-
North Shore is beautiful. It's kind of like the mini version of the California coast or the Oregon coast, maybe more so.
Yeah,
Rocky,
absolutely.
beautiful.
Well, and if you've ever been to Superior National Golf Course up by Lutsen, that is an amazing course to play golf.
And I haven't, and I want to do that.
You need to.
Let's
It's
go.
27 holes. You pick 2 9s to make your 18, and it's absolutely amazing. You got the lake there, so many great tee shots as you're looking at the lake. It's absolutely beautiful.
Are we done with the northern part of the state yet?
Sure.
Sure.
This isn't so much a tourist attraction. You probably would rather not go there, but one of the things Minnesota is known for in the southern half of the state is the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, which is one of the most important clinics in the entire world.
That's right.
Yeah, it's up there. John Hopkins and Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic are kind of your big ones, right?
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have a couple things from the metropolitan area too. Then, unless you have any more outstate stuff.
There's a statue of the Green Giant in is it
LeSueur?
Blue Earth? Is it LeSueur or Blue Earth?
Well, LeSueur is where
LeSueur.
that's where the big, like where the plant is, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
I saw it once. I don't know. I know it was down in the southern part.
You see it when you're driving south on 169.
Okay.
Well, two things that the metropolitan area is known for, besides having two cities, the Twin Cities, is you have the Mall of America.
Yep.
Which is one of the biggest tourist sites in the world, actually, which for most of us that live here, it's kind of like, what's the big deal? But I still like going there. We just went there the other night for my daughter's birthday with some friends of hers, and it is a pretty nice place to go, and you can do pretty much anything you want there. Indoor amusement park, giant movie theater, every kind of food you can imagine, and like 100,000 stores.
520.
100,000. Wow.
He's got that too.
That's
520 stores.
Yep.
It used to be a great spot for nightclubs back when we were that age of going to nightclubs,
when it
but I
first
don't know
opened,
that they have those really anymore.
Oh God, no! Because we went there. We walked in that part the other day because we were going to go to the movie theater. Like the only thing that still exists up there
is, I think he was going to say probably Hooters.
I was going to say
But there
Hooters.
was he cut out there for a second, so he'll jump back on. But it used to be the what was it? The All American Sports Bar.
Yep, that was up there. Was there a piano bar up there too?
Yes, you'd go inside
go.
there, and
Yeah,
it
we
was
got you.
dueling pianos. Yeah, Brad, you're back.
Yeah, that was fun. You had all kinds of cool bars up there, and like a comedy club, but
Yeah,
they've all closed.
Knuckleheads.
And there was a Planet Hollywood for a while.
Oh, that's
There was
right.
a
I
Hard
forgot
Rock.
that was up there.
No,
No,
was
it's
it?
Planet Hollywood.
Yeah,
No, there
never
was a Hard Rock
one.
Cafe down in it was down in the Nickelodeon universe, but that closed too now.
Oh,
That's
I didn't
right.
realize that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there was.
Yeah,
Because
and
I
I mean,
always
That was
thought,
not as long ago. That was not
like
as
back
long
when the
ago
Hard Rock
because we
Cafe
went
was
there.
a big deal, it's like, why did Minneapolis not have a Hard Rock Cafe? It's like we are one of the best music cities in the country,
yep.
but we never had one. And then when we finally got one, it's like nobody cared anymore, and now they're kind of lame and they all closed.
Isn't there still a casino in Vegas?
No, they didn't all. They all closed here.
Oh, here. Okay.
Because there was one downtown for a while, actually. I just remembered.
There
And then,
was.
and there was a short time, yep. And then there was one in the Mall of America, but that's also closed.
Okay.
Yes, I know. I turned my camera off to try to help, so you hopefully don't lose me again, because I know how important I am here.
Well, what's more important is the color of your eyes and what I can see while we're on these beautiful podcasts that we do.
The only other thing I had listed here is Minneapolis is also maybe underrated or should be known for its wonderful art and theater scene.
Yeah. Sculpture gardens. That's a big
Compared to like
That's
New
true.
York, Chicago, it's right up there with one of the next. With the Sculpture Garden is famous. You got the Spoon and the Cherry, but the Hennepin Theater District is thriving
one.
and awesome and something that we are really good at here. And then you also have like theaters all over the place. The Chanhassen Dinner Theater, for example, which is
Yep.
where Amy Adams got her start.
Did she?
She did.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yep.
Okay.
I believe
She,
right now.
speaking of Hooters, Amy Adams was working at a Hooters to try to like pay the bills, and she was doing, I don't know, some kind of acting, but somebody from the Chanhassen Dinner Theater like found her wherever she was and invited her to come work there and moved to Chanhassen.
Really?
That's where she got
Oh.
her big break kind of start in acting, and then she eventually got into, big movie star.
Okay.
I think we have to try that. Go to Hooters and find somebody that could be on our podcast. Hey, we'd like you on our podcast, and see how well that works. That's a
You look
great
like
idea.
a future star.
That's great.
Oh man.
Have we covered
All
the
right.
sites?
Well, I do have to mention Valley Fair.
Oh yes,
Because
good
it-
one.
Oh, yeah.
I
We
was
have
just
mentioned it
there.
before.
Yep, I was just there a couple of weeks ago, and always a great family tradition. It's like our version of Six Flags. It's probably a little smaller version than most of the Six Flags, but it's just right for Minnesota. So it's got a lot of great roller coasters, a lot of things to do for the kids, just a fun amusement park. We have a lot of memories of that place from all the way when we were kids. We always used to do our summer rec trips up there every year. Of course, we had our senior class trip and our 8th grade class trip. We came up to Valley Fair both of those years. Yes, Gifford, you're looking like you're confused, but
I
did do
remember
2
the senior
trips.
trip. I don't remember the 8th grade trip. But I remember the
Yeah.
senior trip.
Well, we'll talk offline about that.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't remember the 8th grade trip. Actually, I didn't ride the bus home from the 8th grade trip, but
Okay.
I missed out on all the stories about what was going on the bus.
All right, you guys are going to have to
Well,
remind me
we're going to
offline.
talk offline.
Because my
All
parents picked me up because we headed to Missouri for a wedding that weekend, so I was
Okay.
there for the whole thing, and then I left.
So one of the great things, the first time I went to Valley Fair with my family, I don't remember what age I was, but I was the perfect height where I could go on the little kid rides and the big people rides.
Oh,
So I could go on
sweet.
everything. It was awesome. I mean, I was pretty quick off the little kid rides because I was a bit of a daredevil when I was younger. But I had the option, at least I could go on every ride in the park, and it was awesome.
If you can do it, you may as well take
You might as well
advantage
do it, right? And I could not believe, like, I remember going there, and it was confounding to me because the only other rides I'd ever been on were at the Lyon County Fair in Marshall, and you had to buy tickets for every ride. And it blew my mind that once you're in the park, you just go on whatever ride you want to go on. Yeah,
And these are like big, cool rides.
Yeah,
not
these
just
are
their
much
little county
better.
fairs.
You're right. Yeah, these are much better rides. And I just, and I mean, as we grew up, it was always fun to see like the new roller coaster that was coming in. Like, we had the white roller coaster, wood roller coaster,
The high roller,
and then the next one.
corkscrew.
I know, but the next big roller coaster was another
the Excalibur. Then
Excalibur,
Wild Thing,
and then Wild Thing came in, and I think
they pretty much added a new ride every year, and it was always like, what's going to be the new ride?
I think Renegade is one that's out there now.
That is the best one.
See, and I haven't been on that one yet.
Unquestionably the best one.
Well, and the only ride that ever freaked me out when I was growing up was the pirate ship.
Yeah. Oh, that's gone now.
Is it
not there anymore?
Yeah. We were sitting there the other day on a bench, and I'm looking at this grassy area, and I'm like, wait a minute, the pirate ship is gone.
Yeah. What they have now is Delirious, which is, I think that it's in honor of Prince, but they clearly didn't have the rights for Prince or anything like that, because it's called Delirious.
Is that why it's purple? And I get it.
And that's it. It doesn't have like the logo or anything like that, but that's what it is. And it's basically a more stabilized loop that takes you pretty much on the same kind of loop, but it's I would guess that it's more stable in high winds.
Well, it's like a roller coaster that just goes around in a circle.
On a track that's in a loop, yeah.
But a vertical circle.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it says here the Looping Starship was taken out in 2019.
There you go.
Wow. Yeah, that was the one that always freaked me out, because you get right to the top and you'd think you'd finally go over, and you just sit there forever, and then you fall back down, and I didn't mind it when you just go all the way around. It was when you get right to the top and hang there and then not go all the way around. I remember Thunder Canyon was a good one. The Flume was always fun.
Flume no longer there.
No? Oh, man.
They just have the one, I think it's called the Wave, where all it is you're in a big boat, a bigger boat than a Flume, and it probably holds 25 people. And you go up and around and drop, and it's a huge splash. And then you can go, when you're getting off, you can go stand on the bridge and wait for it to splash you if you wanted to.
And you get knocked over if you're not paying attention, because that's a lot of water that hits the top of that bridge.
A lot of water.
Yep. Okay.
Fun times. Are we done with Valley Fair? What are we going to talk about next as far as sites?
Can you guys hear me yet?
Oh, yeah. We got
perfect.
you.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, Gifford, you haven't been there in a while. The Flume has been gone for years.
Oh, yeah. I haven't been there in forever.
I bet it's been gone for 20 years.
The last time I was there...
But they have one at the Mall of America. They have one just like it at the Mall of America.
Yep.
Yeah.
The last time I was there, my wife is not a good ride goer, and I don't know why, but she decided to go on Wild Thing, and we were going, how the roller coaster goes up and up and up and up and up and up, to the top, and then all of a sudden it drops. I honestly thought she was going to lose her mind as we were going up. She was like, "Get me off, tell him to stop the ride." Like, she was beside herself in a sheer panic. But anyway, I don't know how she got through the rest of the ride, but I was like, quit ruining it for me. Like, I'm looking forward to this. I've never been on there before. So
I went on it with my 10-year-old just last week, and that's where she was too. She was like, "I don't like this, Daddy. I don't like this," the entire time.
It builds character.
That's right.
Once you do the drop, it's like the easiest ride after that. It's just pretty boring, actually.
Well, and it's so smooth. Like Excalibur.
Yeah, exactly.
That thing like jerks you around as you go around corners, but Wild Thing
why
is nice and smooth.
You got to go back and go on the Renegade, because that is like 100 times faster than any other roller coaster out there. Even if it's not, it feels faster. And it's a wooden roller coaster, but it is awesome.
Interesting. Yeah, I've not gone for obviously a very, 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 very long time.
All right. The only other one site that I want to mention is, if we're in the metro area, the Big Spoon and Cherry.
We already mentioned that.
We already mentioned the Sculpture Garden.
Oh, I
Yep.
guess you did. Okay.
Yep.
The Walker Arts Center.
Forget it.
I brought up the art and theater.
It's where we
so-
had our wedding photos, by the way.
Yes, you did.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's awesome.
So,
Well, one of the subjects I would like to bring up that is not unique to Minnesota, except that we are the best at it in Minnesota as far as youth sports and whatnot, and that is ice hockey. Minnesota puts more skaters into the NHL and D1 hockey than any other state, and it's not even close.
don't forget the Olympics.
Well, and the 1980 men's Olympic team, arguably the greatest team in the country's history that won gold, knocked out the Russians. 12 of those 20 players were from Minnesota, including, of course, Coach Herb Brooks. And as far as women go, women and girls in the state last year, we had 14,223 players that were female in the state. That's 3,000 more than second place Massachusetts and over twice as many as the third state. And just to give an idea of how much we put into hockey in this state, I kind of picked on Nashville a little bit, which has, the Nashville Predators.
Mhm.
The Nashville metro population is just under 2 million people. They have 4 sheets of ice to service 2 million people in two different complexes that are basically sponsored by the Nashville Predators. The city of Bemidji is about 15,000 people, and we have 4 sheets of ice in this town. The little town of Roseau up by the Canadian border, population under 2,700 people, has 3 sheets of ice. If you go to Blaine, which is not too far from Pete's town, they house the largest indoor hockey complex in the world at the Super Rink, 300,000 square feet. It covers 8 sheets of ice. And if that's not enough for you, just over 2 miles down the road is the Fogarty Rink that has another 2 sheets of ice. So you look at how much we put into hockey in this state. The U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame is in Eveleth, Minnesota. The Minnesota High School Boys Hockey Tournament is the largest state tournament in attendance and viewing in the U.S., beating out both Texas football and Indiana State basketball. In 2015, the attendance for the tournament was over 135,000 people. And it is, because of that, even though it only has 256 varsity programs, it is by far the most popular sport in our state because of how many people attend it. And that's just at the high school level.
Let me bring up a little story for you, since we did bring up the 1980 Olympic hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
Just before the pandemic, in February of 2020, my wife and I were going out to Las Vegas for my birthday, which is in February. And so we go to our airport and get to our gate, and there was a bunch of media right around where our gate was. It's like, well, what's going on here? And it was Mike Max, who is the Channel 4 WCCO sports guy. And so he was there. And then what we had come to find out was that slowly but surely, the hockey team, the 1980 Olympic hockey team, was having a reunion in Las Vegas because it was 40 years. It was a 40-year reunion. And it was right after, that's what they were flying out there for, on a Sun Country flight, on our flight. And when we got on the plane, got all situated and everything in our seat, my wife was on the window, I was in the middle seat, and Mike Ramsey, who was a defenseman on the team, he was on the aisle. So I was sitting right next to Mike Ramsey for the entire flight.
That's cool.
So, I didn't really say much to him, but we did talk for a little bit, because I don't typically speak to people on airplanes that I don't know. It's just it's just a thing.
It's a good policy.
It drives me crazy, and when people do it to me, and so I try not to. But it's like, it's the hockey team, so it is about, and it was just not one or two players. It was 10 to 15 of the players that were going out there with their wives and families and everything.
Yep.
And the only little downside was that what we found was when we got out there, Trump was out there for a rally, and we found out that they were going out there. The hockey team was going out there as a part of, they were on stage with Trump as a part of his rally. And so that was a little disappointing for me. We don't get into politics too much, but we make no secret about how we feel about Trump. But anyway, and they were, by the way, on the same flight as us going back too. So it was a chartered Sun Country flight. So that was pretty interesting, kind of exciting.
Yeah.
So
I mean, hockey is just such a massive part of Minnesota, and really because you have so many youth programs, so many high school programs, and now we have 6 Division I hockey programs, men's hockey programs in the state. The Wild, the NHL team we have here, can kind of be an afterthought and isn't necessarily the biggest thing in the state for a lot of fans. There's been story after story of highly accomplished hockey players that grew up in this state that went on to win a Stanley Cup or went on to win a national championship in college. And a lot of them have said that the greatest thing in their hockey career was either making it to the state tournament in high school or winning the state tournament in high school. That was their pinnacle of their career, or their favorite part of their career was a high school game, and had nothing to do with the higher reaches of hockey. So
nice
that's
job on the hockey game.
Yes, I'm a little passionate, and to be fair, I'm a late comer to it. Growing up, I was a basketball guy.
Going to bring up, depending on where you live in the state, like we grew up in the southern half of the state, and you weren't a hockey fan. None of us, we couldn't have cared less about hockey.
No.
And me and Pete still probably don't care much about hockey at all, actually.
I do enjoy watching, and I follow what the Wild are doing. But when they get to the playoffs, and especially deep into the playoffs, it is the most exciting sports to watch, really. NHL playoff hockey is a lot of fun to watch when your team is in it.
There's no better thing in sport than Game 7 overtime hockey.
Yes.
So we are the state of hockey, but I was going to throw in, we are also one of the few metropolitan areas that has all the pro sports teams. Maybe we shouldn't even have all of them. Maybe we're not big enough to really run all of them. But we got football, basketball, hockey, and baseball. Plus you have WNBA, Major League Soccer. We've got everything.
Women's
here.
professional soccer.
Think of all the championship titles we must have.
Think of all the championships we've won. Nope.
Well, there was those Lakers squads early on. We got the Twins. We got the Lynx. That's the Lynx are helping us stay afloat. Is about the best thing we are going right now.
On the other hand, we only have one fully Division I school in our state, which is also very unique. Most states around us have multiple. Even Iowa has multiple D1 schools. So people like me who are huge fans of college sports and the Gophers, I mean, we're very passionate about our school. Now there's D1 hockey teams, but that's a different sport, and it's
totally different situation. Right.
We have one D1 football team,
one D1 basketball team. Yep.
Well, there's going to be 2. No, actually there's 2 now. St. Thomas.
Oh, St. Thomas. Yep.
But you know, that doesn't count for much yet. Maybe eventually they will become, a bigger deal, but it's going to take a while.
And that's where hockey, again, in the state is a little bit more fun if you're a fan, because you have Duluth and Mankato and St. Cloud and Bemidji, and, it's not just the Gophers. So there's a lot of rivalry just within the state.
Yeah, there's rivalries in hockey. But
the
only other thing I kind of threw it in this category, I would be remiss if I didn't add, because my wife brought it up, that this is also a great state for biking. There is a huge biking community here. There are trails everywhere, events in the city. People bike, and you get people who hate bikers that complain about it, but it is a huge deal. And she loves to bike, and there are many opportunities in Minnesota to do that.
I'd like to point out, Brett is talking about cycling by sight.
Correct.
Yes, not
Mhm.
biker like motorcycle.
Which
But
we have those too. but
yes, we do.
have
But
that, and especially
cycling,
in South Dakota.
I don't think there's
Yep.
anything unique about that. Just
no. But cycling is a very big thing. I've got like a cousin who lives way down in southwestern Minnesota, and they make trips up to Bemidji, and then there's a bike trail that goes all the way like down to Brainerd, and they like doing that. Her daughter and husband will do that, and she drives the car and goes shopping and meets them at at their destination. So, yeah, there's a lot of cyclists in the state as well.
Kind
And
of
I, and I,
along those lines is sorry, we're going to talk about cycling there.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Brad and I are familiar with a little bit with marathon running. The Twin Cities Marathon is dubbed the most beautiful urban marathon in America. That's
Really?
what it's dubbed as, and I've run
Okay.
it twice, and I would say so. It's a great run. It's a fun run. You run from what is now US Bank Stadium. It used to be the Metrodome. You run from there to the Capitol, and you run around all the lakes and just the crowd of people.
Mississippi River.
And just,
Mhm.
Yep, the Mississippi River. You go over the Mississippi River
Summit
on
Avenue.
bridge. And yeah, Summit Avenue is where you're nearing the end of the race. And I will say that race, when you hit mile 20, you're halfway there. because miles 20 through 23, it's a pretty steep uphill grade for that point in a marathon, and that's hard work. But when you hit Summit Avenue, then that's when you know that you've made it. You're running through all the mansions, and I think you do pass the governor's mansion, and then you hit and then you can see the Capitol, which is the finish line, and it's a nice about a 1.5 mile drop downhill, and it's a lot of fun. So
Mhm.
great run. If you're a runner, I would highly recommend hitting that one if you have not already.
Well, and one thing that Brad brought up early on is that we have 4 seasons. And I think because of that, you have a limited time every year in which you can participate in a sport. So
Yes.
per capita, Minnesota is one of the biggest golfing states in the union.
I think it is the biggest.
Is
Yeah.
it? So, like you say, cycling, you can only do it, certain months out of the year. Same with golf. And again, one of the great things to do in Minnesota in our hellish winters is to go out ice fishing. Again, I know that's not unique to our state, but up here, for example, on Lake Bemidji, there's a little shanty town out there every year of people that pull their ice houses out there and leave them there for the year and head out and ice fish for the winter.
Mhm.
I remember shortly after college, I had a group of friends. We would always go rent a house out on Mille Lacs for Martin Luther King weekend. We would have anywhere from, I think, 8 to 14 people, and we'd rent 1 or 2 or 3 houses up there and head out and ice fish. About half of the group was really interested in catching fish, and the other half were more interested in just sitting in the house playing cards and drinking beer for the weekend. So
Mhm.
it was a good group of people, and it was a lot of fun. But unfortunately, we don't get together anymore to do that one. But that was a lot of fun. Shortly after college, for about I don't know, 8 or 10 years, we go every year. So ice fishing definitely a big part of Minnesota in the winter.
All right. What do we got now, Brad?
Well, basically, I have some celebrities listed in just one other topic. I think we need to mention the last topic really I have is the culture or behavior of Minnesotans. So there's a term called Minnesota nice that people probably are aware of even if they don't live here. We're nice people. We're welcoming people. However,
Yeah.
I think there's often a darker side to that. There's a very passive-aggressive behavior to many
Very,
Minnesotans.
very
If you've
passive
seen
aggressive.
Fargo, that's the real Minnesotans.
Yeah, and we are very territorial about our state. We love our state, and
Yes.
you don't want to get in the middle of that, but we certainly act like we're nice.
Mhm.
And then my family, we also
we
have.
will
I don't
talk
know,
about you behind your back.
Yes.
My family has what you would call the Minnesota goodbye too, where when it's
Ah,
time to go,
Oh my
you
God.
stand around at the door for like another half hour, and it
Mhm.
just takes forever to get
Yep.
out. But we see we want to be around each other, and it's just hard to say goodbye. So
Yeah. Yes, the Minnesota goodbye. For sure.
Mhm.
Ah,
all right.
What else? You said you had one more topic, Brad.
Well, the
I
other
think
one
I
is
know what it is.
celebrities.
Oh,
Oh,
you
yeah.
missed one then.
I just made there's many celebrities. I just made a list of some of the ones that I thought were the biggest ones. So
Okay.
Go for it.
you got Winona Ryder,
Mhm.
who was named after Winona, Minnesota. Of course, we
Yep.
love her. Jessica Lange, Academy Award-winning actress
Out of Little
from
Falls.
Cloquet, Minnesota.
Oh, I
Oh,
thought she was
she's
from Little
okay.
Falls.
I just looked it up today.
No
The
kidding.
famous Judy Garland.
Yep.
You got Prince and Bob Dylan, who we'll talk more about in our music episode. Charles Schultz, creator of the
Yep.
Peanuts comic strip, and we have many, many Peanuts statues and Peanuts related things all around the state. And then a movie director, the Coen brothers, who you brought up Fargo many times.
Yep.
And then one of the most accomplished ones of all, maybe doesn't get as much credit because he's an author, but F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote the great American novel, The Great Gatsby,
Mhm.
along with many others, and kind of defined the 1920s. And so those are some of the big ones.
Did you even say Prince?
I said
yeah.
Prince and Bob Dylan.
Yep.
Oh, you did. You did. Sorry.
I said it in
Garrison
passing
Keillor?
because we'll talk about them again later.
Got it. I was taking a note.
But see, and we are really proud of people like Prince, and we kind of, now that Prince died, everything is about Prince. Maybe to a point where it's a little much sometimes, but
Oh,
we
okay.
we have this need to be accepted,
Yes.
and so that's a big thing here in Minnesota.
Correct.
You know Sally Field's famous speech, "You like us, you really like us." That's how we feel.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. We don't want to, idly stand by and be thought of as flyover country. We're
No.
very proud of our state and everything that is in it and what we have to offer. So,
All right. Well, maybe I don't know. You guys got any more? Maybe that's a good place to.
30-minute Minnesota goodbye.
No Minnesota
I-
goodbye
I'm actually-
here.
good
I'm
call.
actually doing it right now just by having this conversation. This is exactly how they go. We have this kind of bullshit conversation that means nothing.
Well, I think
right.
my car's finally warmed up in the driveway, so the heat is on. I'm gonna go hop in it and head for home, fellas.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Here they are, Preacher Row.
Bye.
See ya.
You betcha.
Standing on my own 2 feet. No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your song is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. Hands tied, tell me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do.